Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And here with us today is yet another high demand coach and entrepreneur, Jeff Kikel, who worked in the corporate world in financial services for over 20 years. But 10 years ago, he decided to strike out on his own, starting not one, but two businesses simultaneously. And after years of challenges and struggles, Jeff built systems that allowed him to grow and scale his companies to the point that he reached his freedom day in 2021. Today, he runs three businesses, real estate, wealth management, and publishing industries. He's also the author of a brand new book we're going to get to talk about here today. Well, Jeff, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on. Obvious question coming out of this and is pertinent to your work as well is what's a freedom day? You said you had yours in 2021. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Scott, so I've been in the financial services industry, like you said, for 20 years. Traditional retirement planner, financial planner, that whole time period, helped thousands of people retire.
Yeah.
But I started to reach a point, I'd call it like mid 2000s, where I was starting to see a change in the mindset of my clients. I'll start with the younger ones. So the newer generation, the Gen Xers, the late Gen Xers and the early millennials just kind of had a different mindset. They didn't want that 40-year working career and, saving up all this money and retiring, postponing life. I always call these guys the post 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss's book, the post 4-hour work week generation. They just were wired differently and they have different goals in life. And then I started seeing my older clients looking at life, after two pretty big, nasty recessions during their working career and probably layoffs and everything else, and they were behind. So they all just kind of had this negative look at retirement when I would talk about retirement. And so I started to think about this, and I was sitting down with an older client, and we were sitting there, and he, of course, the usual, oh, I'm going to be working the rest of my life, blah, 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 blah. And I started to go through the numbers and I'm like, I can do this in my head. You're going to be totally fine. You woke up this morning and you didn't have to go to work. You reached your freedom day. And as soon as I said that, a big smile popped up on his face.
Wow.
And I was like, maybe there's something to that. And so I started using that term starting in about 2015 with a select group of people. And it really resonated with people because instead of retirement, which is this time-bound thing. It's this, I'm gonna work until I'm 65 and, I'm gonna postpone life. Freedom Day was, hey, as soon as you have enough money, assets, income to replace your existing job, and not even replace your existing job, just make enough to where you pay all your bills. That's your freedom day. You woke up that morning and you didn't have to go to work. And so that's where the concept came from. It's the name of my company. It's the whole concept that I talk about in the upcoming book, like we were talking about.
Yeah. So one of the kind of undercurrents of this is this traditional approach to retirement planning. It's not working well. Whether it did before or not, that's to be determined, but it's not working now. Why is it failing us?
Well, I think it's always failed us. I think people have learned to they've learned to accept life and say, well, I saved as best as I could. So I'm going to go into retirement. Maybe I was making a couple, $100,000 a year. Well, I'm going to learn to, and the industry does this. Well, you're going to live on 85% of what you're making. Well, if you were spending 100%, now you go into retirement and you're going to be doing 85% or
Right.
less. That doesn't work. So the whole concept is grabbing and taking control of this and saying, you know what, I'm going to find ways to generate income. Some of it may be from traditional investing, but others, it's, hey, come up with a side hustle, come up with, real estate investing, all that, but come up with sources of income that are going to replace that paycheck. And you're going to have those going and get that done before you get to the end.
Right.
And get into retirement. I think a ton of people are realizing that now with the way inflation has been. You're seeing more people that are in their 70s and 80s going back to work at this point because the plan was kind of broken. When you have a 9% year of inflation and you got that year maybe a 3% bump in your Social Security and your investments didn't keep up with it, you got to come up with the money someplace. I just want people to do that sooner. And I also want people to be able to, if they hate their job, get out while you can. It's just too long of a life to spend working a job you hate.
It's a really interesting, challenge, especially as you zoom into a lot of folks listening to this are business owners, and entrepreneurs, and a lot of them wouldn't necessarily resonate with, "Hey, I hate working at my company,"
Yeah.
but they're just tired.
Yeah.
Like, they're just tired. You've been doing it 10, 20, 30, 40 years sometimes.
Hmm.
But the challenge with that is that business oftentimes represents a very, very large chunk of their assets.
Yes.
And it also represents a very, very large chunk, if not all, of their income.
Hmm.
And so this whole prospect of not only am I going to not do this thing that I've done for 20, 30, 40 years,
Hmm.
but it's also tied to my entire livelihood,
Yeah.
so how do you help folks to try and wrap their mind around what things are going to look like post-retirement, particularly for business owners?
Well, and I think, for a lot of business owners, and I'm even seeing in one of my businesses right now, we're in the real estate business, but we also own co-working spaces. So I count that as real estate. And, at some point, I don't want to be doing that. So we're making some changes even inside our business. We've got a 2-year plan for that to say, okay, what does life look like outside of owning a brick and mortar location? So what can we do? What things can we add into our business so that, I don't necessarily have to sell the business, but I want a business that I have complete freedom of my time and I have complete freedom of whatever location that I'm at. So I think for a lot of business owners, and I was that guy, prior to the pandemic, I had started 6 businesses in 4 years. I was working 70, 80-hour weeks every week.
Wow.
Thank God for COVID because it slowed me down and it made me realize that I could be a lot more efficient with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I could change up some of the how I was getting revenue in the business. Before it was like, okay, it was all about people coming into the co-working space. Well, they weren't when you have a physical location and you can't get out. We had to change up ways that we were generating revenue. And that's been an ongoing thing for the last 3 to 4 years. So I think those people, they don't necessarily have to say, you know what, I'm going to just get out of this completely, but
Right.
what can you do to kind of switch up the business so that it becomes a little less active income and a lot more passive income in your business? I think that's the biggest thing. If you're looking at it and saying, "Hey, I want the traditional retirement route and I just want out of this business," then you got to get really, really serious about looking at your business today and how it runs. Because if you're, let's say, in the baby boom generation or even late baby boom generation, the people who are buying your business are millennials or Gen Xers who come from the world of, I don't want to work 90 hours a week in a business. I'm sure as heck not going to buy your business that you're working 70 or 80 hours a weekend. So you've got to start looking at your business and changing it up to where it's more efficient. Look at efficiency, look at the ability to make yourself, what I call make yourself irrelevant to your business so that you are not what the business is. You don't own a job, you own a business. So that means you build systems. That means you bring in people to run that business and run those systems for you so
Yes.
that you can, kind of extract yourself out of the middle, which is hard for entrepreneurs a lot of times.
Yeah. Y you bring me right to my next question, which is, a lot of times around an exit, there's this, ownership and management are flattened, right? In a lot of small businesses, entrepreneurial organizations, especially founder-led, founder's the owner, founder's the senior management, right? They're the one and the same, and so when we think about
And the janitor,
and the
those
janitor
and
and
the
the
purchasing department,
yeah.
HR, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and so when we start to think about maybe even the opportunity to own the business and not run it, right? You have to start to separate what is ownership and what is management, and so how have you either yourself or your clients started to navigate this distinction between owning and
Mhm.
managing a business?
Well, I think, you've got to really sit down and do a serious look at your business. And I would highly, this is a situation where you don't want to try and do this on your own. You want to find somebody that helps people exit businesses. So whether they're a business broker, and that's a slippery slope because a lot of them are just out to get your listing and that's it. But, look for coaches, look for consultants that could come in and take a 40,000-foot look at your business. And, I mean, one of the things we did, because this is what I do with clients, I help clients figure this out. One of the things we do is we do an Eisenhower matrix, and if you don't know what that is, it's just basically 4 blocks and it starts with, the most critical and it's, right now has to be done. And it kind of works its way around to this doesn't ever need to be done and start to put some of those tasks in there. And I use an acronym, when I kind of figure out how I'm going to use my time. Yeah, I use the acronym IDEA. So identify first. So sit down and figure out all the things that need to be done on an annual, on a quarterly, and then get it down to monthly and to your day. Look through that and say, all right, what, you know, identify all of the things that you do and then categorize them into those boxes. And the D is delegate. Okay. So what is important enough, but I don't need to be doing it, can be delegated to somebody. So either an employee I have here or, I've got employees overseas in the Philippines and in multiple places. What can I delegate to them? It's important stuff, but I don't need to be doing it. What is an E, which is what can just be eliminated? I don't want to assign it to anybody. It's unimportant and it's not really there. And then the A is automate. So what needs to be done, and it really doesn't, it's not worth having a human do it, but with
Mm.
AI and with other things, it can be automated so that your business runs much more efficiently. So that's kind of how I organize things. And it really should be your first step is identifying what is done. And that can be as simple as, you know what? Just literally have all your employees and you write down the tasks that you do over a week. And then you can figure out, all right, what is why are you doing this? There's no reason for doing that. It's in my business, I find myself doing the same things that I railed about in corporate world. And I remember I had a guy that I worked with a large financial firm, the president of the company one time, and he was saying, well, why are we doing this? And I said, well, because they tell us to. Who's they? Well, it's the innocuous they up in Boston. And he's like, okay, well, let's figure out who they is and let's just eliminate that because it's stupid. It's those type of things. You've got to be able to say, all right, why are we doing this?
Right.
And everybody has businesses like that. I said the 4-hour work week. Literally, I've read that every single year, twice a year for
Well,
since 2009, actually 2006 when the book came out. And it makes me go through that same kind of exercise every year, eliminating garbage
yep.
from my day.
It's fantastic. What would you say, shifting gears just slightly, what would you say are some of the biggest non-financial challenges that business owners face in retirement? A lot of the exit discussion necessarily revolves around the transaction and
Yeah.
what the finances are going to look like and what's going to happen inside the business, but it can come at the cost of what's actually next.
Yeah.
Uh, what are some of those non-financial challenges
Well,
and
I
how
think the
can we start
biggest
to
thing
prepare
is,
for them?
so many of us as entrepreneurs are kind of wrapped up in our business as our identity.
Hmm.
And, one of the things that I have clients do, like even before they retire, I have them write out a bucket list. I mean, I give them actually a bucket list book that has them put together 100 things that they want to do before they die. And I start getting them thinking about that because what happens is if they don't spend some time thinking about that, they're going to retire. And within about a month or two, they're going to be bored as tears
Mm.
Because you'll talk about it. Well, what are you going to do when you retire? Oh, well, I'm going to sleep in. Okay, well, that's 2 days. Well, I'm going to play golf. Okay, you're going to be bored to tears after like 4 days of doing that. Or maybe once a week you're going to play golf and then you're going to be bored as tears. What are you going to do after that?
Right.
Well, yeah, we'll travel. Okay, well, are you going to travel, 360 days a year and be back home for Christmas? Well, no. I mean, we're only going to do like one trip a year, like we always did. Okay, well, what are we going to do to fill the time? So just keep doing that. You've really got to figure out what your life is going to be afterwards. And that, honestly, the math part is easy. The finance part's easy. It's figuring that part out of what you're going to do to fill your time. Is it that you might want to, you may want to start another business, or you may get into some different type of business like real estate or something along those lines. I always hear, well, I'm going to manage my portfolio. Well, I have 150 clients and I manage money 1 day per month. So if you're one person, you shouldn't be spending an entire month doing that. So what are you going to do? And I think that's the biggest thing is having, identifying what it's going to be. Is it volunteering? Is it going to be maybe you go do some consulting work or something like that? You've got a lot of expertise. A lot of times it's staying around and helping consult with your old firm sometimes.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. So, Jeff, there's a question that I ask all my guests. I'd love to hear what you have to say to it. What would you say is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
I think the biggest secret to this all is how stinking hard this is. If you're going to start a business and you're going to get to the exit, it is hard. It's not easy. It's making that transition was probably one of the most difficult things for me when I did my first big exit from a business. It was trying to figure out what the next steps were. Um, and fortunately, I had the income and the assets to take about a year and figure that out. And I would encourage everybody to build that in when you get ready to exit, whether it's leaving a job or whether it's leaving your business and selling your business. Build in time to just think and figure out what really makes you happy and just
Yeah.
do what makes you happy. I eliminated probably 30 things from my life that were not making me happy anymore. And I was doing kind of out of, I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was, me saying, oh, I have to do this because I'm in this position in the world or whatever, but I literally just eliminated them within weeks of me, getting through the sale of the business. And I live a happy life. I only deal with people I want to deal with. I only do things that I want to do at this point. And I still continue to build businesses, but I build businesses that aren't eating up my time. They're businesses that generate revenue and it's passive.
Fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about your book, where we can get a copy of it, and where we can find more out about you as well.
So the book is Overcoming the Retirement Trap. It's actually due out here in the beginning of December. This has been a 2 year journey with this book. I've written other books in the interim time, but this has really been this is my story. Really, it's all the dumb mistakes I made over a 10-year period or 12-year period of time. It's my philosophy and my strategy on helping people exit from whatever situation they're in, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
Whether you like your business and maybe you just want a different approach to it. The whole book's about that. And it's on Amazon. So you can get it. It's called Overcoming the Retirement Trap.
Fantastic. Overcoming the Retirement Trap by Jeff Kikel, Kikel. Fantastic, fantastic book. Highly recommend it. Well, Jeff, thanks for being on the show. It was a privilege having you here today. And for those of you watching and listening, your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.